I'm gonna hold the line one more time. Alright, I'm gonna hold the line one more time until water map. If water map pops off, I apologize, Iron Mace, for losing faith. Alright? I implore you guys to do the same. We gotta give them one more shot. Because now there is zero excuse for this game to fail. You're holding the line for the last time. Yep. The last time. It's the last time, Iron Mace. You got this. Don't fuck up this time. Lock in. Lock the fuck in, dude. Go hit the gym and lock the fuck in on this white, bruh. It's been a while. I've been caught up with various matters and haven't had much time to focus on the kitchen. Today, I'd like to take a moment to share what has happened so far and the conclusions we've reached. Okay, so hopefully he's figured out exactly what he wants to do now that the semi-wipe is coming to a close. Or, sorry, the semi-wipe's coming to a beginning and the original semi-wipe's coming to a close. First, let me once again summarize the original vision. Oh, okay. The original vision is to create a combat environment where parties of various sizes and goals can naturally coexist. I still don't think this is possible, bro. I don't think solos are going to be able to coexist with trios in the same lobby, but where gear does not excessively determine the outcome of battle, where items function as a means rather than an end, and where time investment leads to gradual accumulation of wealth rather than the overwhelming power growth, ensuring that no one feels hopeless in combat. Okay. Coexistence. An environment where parties... Okay, so now he's defining these terms. An environment where parties of different sizes and goals can naturally play together. Balanced gear impact. Gear should not excessively determine victory or defeat. Excessively. Okay, I wonder what he means by this. Because gear does have to have some degree of impact on a fight, otherwise gear becomes pointless. And then, you know, just like Hotfix 69, it was like, what are we even playing for? Role of items. Items are a means to achieve goals, not the goal itself. I don't know what this means. I feel like if he wanted this to be the case, shouldn't he make some of the items and stats benefit you against PvE and bosses and stuff like that? Kind of like Divine Blade gives undead damage bonus. Like, if most of the items were like that, then this would make sense. But all the stats and bonuses on gear are... It seems to be PvP oriented, so I'm not sure how it's supposed to be a means. Like, what goals are they achieving? Because the only goal right now in the game is to PvP, as far as I know, outside of like bossing. Shift in growth model. Time investment results in gradual accumulation of wealth, not excessive power scaling. Time investment results in gradual accumulation of wealth, not excessive power scaling. I don't even know what this means. Meaning time investment over time, you will get more and more money, not necessarily you'll be able to get one disgusting kit and then you'll just be rolling people. Is that what he means? I don't know what this means. Combat with hope, a structure where no one feels despair in combat and everyone has at least some chance. I don't like that because then that defeats the whole purpose of PvP. PvP is supposed to have risk. Obviously, to like a certain degree. I don't know if this is what he means. The despair he's talking about, it would make sense. Like, say you run into double druid and you're a caster. I guess that's like an extreme form of despair where you're like, oh shit, I'm gonna get fucking dogged on by a double druid. Like, that makes sense, but that's just the druid itself being overpowered. I don't know. Long-term goal, sustainable goal that can be enjoyed for more than 10 years. Well, you gotta not kill the player base in order for this to happen. So, in summary, this means building a game where, even within a competitive structure, where winners and losers are inevitable, okay, players never feel hopeless in defeat, but are instead given the hope to try again. Ensuring continuous engagement on this foundation, the goal is to create a game that can be enjoyed and sustained for more than a decade. It's like he's trying to, like, control the emotions of players, and I don't think that's... I don't see how that's going to work. You can't I don't know. You can't dictate how people are going to feel about the game. But I don't know. This was shared to explain how things have evolved, starting from the original vision, not to represent the entirety of our future direction. And I believe that sharing my personal way of thinking with you is the best way to help convey understanding. Well, I'm not understanding this, so unless anybody else here has any ideas of what he's meaning, this doesn't make any sense to me. properly address any phenomenon or problem, I believe it's essential to first identify and fully understand its root cause, its essence. This is similar to a programmer's mindset. Instead of simply using a piece of complex code left behind by many people out of habit, one seeks to fully understand its structure and then use it or improve it correctly. So when I sense, whether through intuition or surface level observations, that there may have been a problem with the game's foundation or its core, I cannot just leave it as is. I must dig in, analyze, and organize it until I can truly convince myself and gain certainty. He says this, but then like a fundamental issue in this game is like range damage, right? And range damage hasn't been fixed. Another one was move speed, which I guess to a degree move speed's okay right now. They fixed it, but like it was just like last season. They gave everybody move speed rolls in every piece of gear, so that doesn't make sense to me. Whatever. I believe this attitude is ultimately what gives us power to create a truly great game. Okay. That said, this does not mean that every element of the game must be 100% perfect. What I mean is that the parts that are truly important must at least surpass a certain critical threshold of quality. That threshold can vary depending on the nature of the game, or the element in question. In some cases, 100% completion may be required, while in other cases, 50% may be sufficient. Huh, okay. Don't know what that means either. Problem recognition. What was the core issue? Ooh, okay, this is going to be interesting. From the playtest through early access launch and the initial stages of service, we developed rapidly while trying to accommodate a wide range of player requests. In doing so, however, we should have taken more time to deeply understand and resolve the underlying issues. Okay, so I think what he means by this is like everybody was wanting solos, but they shouldn't have gave in, is what they're saying. But now that they gave in the first place to like solos and duos being, you know, implemented into the game, it's almost impossible for them to fully take them out. That's what I'm understanding. Instead, within the fast-paced development environment, we often chose the easier path, which the easier path would be, okay, the players want this, we'll just give them that. And as a result, well, except for like all the issues that we have now that they're not changing, like Druid being OP as shit, but I don't think they can fix Druid, to be honest. And Sork CC being just ridiculous. I don't think they're ever going to fix that, though. And as a result, additional layers of complexity and problems were created, yeah. Of course, the biggest issue was that there was simply not enough to do within the game. Yep, this is still an issue. Because there was a lack of diverse, ongoing content and game goals. Which, honestly, bro, if they just would have, like, stopped flip-flopping numbers and just adding content instead, like, this wouldn't be an issue. But, you know, here we are. I mean, the whole semi-wipe, they made drastic changes, removing roles, you know, doing all these crazy things, and then at the end of the semi-wipe, they just reverted all of it. It's literally completely back to where it was, besides multiclassing, so I'm assuming we're going to see multiclassing here soon. Each season ended up repeating a similar gameplay loop. However, I will not be addressing that issue here. Yo! Party type issue. Feedback. Okay, in the Trios only playtest environment, solos and duos players found it difficult to enjoy the game. Yes, this is still the case. Solo and duo players felt it was unfair to go up to trios. It is absolutely unfair, and you could be one of the best players. You could have thousands of hours on your class and still lose. Because in what realm are you supposed to be able to deal with a duo, let alone a trio? Like, say you're getting W keyed by a barbarian, and then there's a range class on their team shooting at the same time. Now you have to worry about 1v1ing one of the strongest melee classes in the game without taking damage from the range class. It's just like, with the high TTK, with the 100 or 200% headshot multiplier, like, there's just no way. There's no way. I don't care what anybody says. 1v2s are possible. It's very difficult, and I think there's a little bit of gear diffing involved in that. You have to have a little bit better gear. 1v3s are pretty much impossible unless you're certain classes. Ranger, Sorcerer, and potentially Wizard. But Wizard has limited spells, so it's a little harder. But that's pretty much it. You can't really 1v3 in melee classes unless you're like Barbarian and the other team is just morons and you're just cleaning them up, getting moral boost every time you get a kill. That's the only other way to do it. But they just nerfed moral boost from 33 to 25%, so who knows if that's even possible anymore. It was also difficult to find people to play with. Yeah, this is still an issue. Final action. Added solo, duo, and trio options to all maps. Oh. Is this confirmed? That they're just bringing solo, duos, and trio back to all maps. Final action. Okay. So this looks like solo, duos, and trios will be added back to all maps next season. W. That's good. It's good for me because I'm tired of playing Goblin Caves. Gear gap issue. Feedback. Large gear differences often led to hardcore players slaughtering casual players, making the game difficult to enjoy. Yeah, I agree. Introducing up to 5 gear-based matchmaking brackets. I think the gear-based... I've been back and forth on like the gear-based matchmaking. Like, you remember when we had the 2-2-4 lobbies and the 1-2-4 lobbies? I honestly think the best game mode was 2-2-4 lobbies. I think it was the best version of the game. Because 2-2-4s, there's pretty much a cap as to how strong you can get, unless you're playing classes like Druid, which you don't need weapons, so you can stack more, you could stack more gear score because, Druid scaling on Panther and Bear, you only need, like, the stats, which they could easily fix that. But, yeah, 2-2-4s was really good. I think most people would agree 2-2-4 HR lobbies was, like, some of the most balanced, fun lobbies to play. Sorry, chat. I'll get back to you once I'm done with this. Excessive time and investment issue. Feedback. Yes. Okay, before we even read this, one thing that frustrates me is that they nerfed the solo Goblin Caves loot. And the reasoning for it was because duos and trios, the loot was too good or something, or it was good, but they want it to be less good in Goblin Caves for some reason, so you don't get... I don't know what they mean. They're trying to incentivize people to go into duos or trios, so they just nerf solo loot. I think that's a very stupid way to do it, to be honest. I don't know. Securing competitive items required excessive time, making it hard for players with limited playtime to compete. Yep. With large gear gaps already in place, the low probability of obtaining valid gear due to random modifiers made farming take too long. I don't think this would be the case if they increased the loot. And this is what I mean, like... I think a big issue is we had normals and normals and HR were separated. If they got rid of that and just made it one game mode and just made the loot really good and progressively get better as you go down and had the mobs progressively get harder, I feel like that would fix the issue. I don't know why we have HR right now. I don't think it serves a purpose besides just separating the player base even more. And like it's to the point where at the end of wipes, HR is completely dead. Or competitive players that are losers just want to go in normals and just steamroll people. Or, I don't know, man. I don't see a point in HR right now. It's just, HR is completely buns. Yeah, and it sucks getting one-tapped by Nightmare Crossbowmen, but that's a whole other situation. Even in trading posts, obtaining desired items was cumbersome and time-consuming. Yeah, I agree. I hate going to the market. I hated it. This is one thing I loved about, like, SSF, and even, like, them removing the rolls on gear. One thing I liked was that it was so easy to sell stuff, because there was no rolls. You would just click on it, and you'd sell it on the market based off the rarity. But, obviously, you can't play a game with no modifiers. That kills the whole game. But it would have been different if they would have removed all the modifiers, and they would have gave us skill trees. That would have changed some things. But yeah, I agree. We got to figure out a system where we're not 100% reliant on the market, which I'm excited for the semi-wipe being half of it being SSF. I think this is going to be... I think they're doing this as a test to see like how much people really enjoy it. Because the last time we had SSF, the last season, was really, really bad because the loot was completely bugged. They were revamping all the different maps, and they said they were having issues because they were never able to separate the different loot per like solo duos and trios and the different maps, so it was like completely bugged and the loot was just terrible. So it was like a bad example of like what SSF would be. But I think if they figure it out now and the loot is good, we're fire. I think SSF's gonna be fire, and I think most people agree. As a result, casual players often couldn't keep up with the gear gap and tended to quit. Yeah, I think this is always gonna happen though, unfortunately. But here's the thing: if this game becomes really, really popular, the issue is, like, the player base is so small now, the majority of the players that are here are experienced players, so, like, there's no real room for new players to come in. They're just going to get slammed. Even by somebody with 1,000 hours, a new player is not going to stand a chance. Which is, like, I feel like Iron Mace needs to really take marketing seriously and needs to market this game on this upcoming wipe. They're just relying on streamers to, like, advertise for the game, and it's just not enough, man. Final action. Again, introduced up to 5 gear-based matchmaking brackets. Up to 5? Okay, so this would mean, okay, 0 to 24, 25 to 124, 125 to 224, 225 plus, up to 5. What would the 5th one be? Adventure mode? That would be 5, right? Okay, so it looks like the final action is they're going to bring back the gear-based matchmaking brackets. Cool. I mean, I don't think people had a problem with this. The only issue is we didn't have the fucking player base to withstand all the gear brackets, which I'm thinking they're counting on this new wipe having a significant increase in players, which is going to help with that issue. But they really have to lock in. This has to be a really good season. Like, the number one thing that's hurting this game is the player base, honestly. And the reviews in Steam are terrible, so it's going to be hard to get new players back in. So this is, like they said in the past, this is a make or break season, this next season, for sure. Final action. Adjusted item drop rates, added higher tier shop sales, crafting, and implemented the gem socket system. Higher tier shop sales and crafting. I wonder what they mean by this. We don't know yet. We're going to have to find out because it's not specific. Okay, number 4. Combat hope issue feedback. In 3v3 situations, losing one member would drastically swing the match, making victory chances extremely low. Okay, I disagree with this. The reason why is, like, it's completely situational, right? Say you're playing in a 3v3 situation, one of your guys goes in and gets slammed, right? It causes the team of 3 to get overconfident, and they could push themselves into a bad situation that you can capitalize on. So it's not necessarily that the chances are extremely low to win. I don't necessarily agree with that. It's definitely doable to 2v3. It's definitely doable, depending on comps. But well, let's see what he says. Playing with teammates who are less skilled or had weaker gear often led to repeated losses. Yep, this is true. Discouraging team play and ultimately shrinking the community. I agree. They have to, which they did say they're creating the gathering hall. They're expanding it so people will be able to join and play with other people. We don't know what it's going to look like, but they said they're working on it. That's why they extended the semi wipe. The water map season out another month so they can finalize that. Final action: adjusted hit to kill across weapons and armor, and introduced 200% headshot. Okay, so this is finalized. 200% headshot is going to stay, which I guess I don't have an issue. The only issue I have a problem with it is, like, Sork's elemental bolt one tapping to the head. That feels bad. But other than that, I think it's okay. Longbow to the head doesn't feel good either. But core issue: matchmaking pool fragmentation. Issues 1 to 3, which would be party type issue feedback, gear gap issue feedback, and excessive time investment feedback. Ultimately stemmed from the demand that players want environments suited to their own conditions. However, by providing all of these as separate spaces, the matchmaking pools become excessively fragmented, leading to degraded game quality and significantly higher server costs. Okay. Resolution and direction. What did we decide to do? We made many attempts over a long period to resolve the various issues above, but in the process, new core problems kept arising. As a result, we lost confidence that we were truly addressing the fundamental causes of these issues. Ultimately, we decided to simplify each element in order to uncover and focus on the root causes. Simplify each element. I'm guessing this is what they mean by just completely getting rid of all the roles and then making it, and then just building from the ground level, I guess is what they're saying. In addition, with new dungeons on the way, we anticipated that matchmaking pools would only increase further. We judged that hasty fixes would simply cause the same core problems to repeat. So it became clear that we needed to establish a properly consolidated and complete system to prevent this from happening. So this pretty much says the matchmaking pools would only increase further. So they're, like I said, they're counting on this new season to fill up the matchmaking pools of the dungeon, the different brackets. So, yeah. Consolidate complete system to prevent this from happening. Okay, interesting. All right, this is conclusion. What did we gain as a result, ultimately? Okay, after simplifying and reviewing each element one by one, we were able to confirm whether each was truly necessary for the game, and if so, to what extent it should be maintained. Okay, for example, the conclusion regarding gear differences may seem obvious. If the gap is too large, it feels unfair. If it's too small, players lose their sense of purpose. Yes, absolutely. However, my philosophy as a director is not to simply accept such obvious conclusions at face value, but to thoroughly verify them within the actual system. So we tested, what if gear differences did not exist at all? And this is what they mean by taking all the modifiers away, which was the same thing they did on Hotfix 69. The result was that players lost their motivation to pursue better gear, and the meaning of the gameplay itself became diluted. Exactly. People, that was the issue. Hotfix 69 and this recent the patch before semi-wipe when they decided to remove all the roles. People are like, what's the point of playing now? This game sucks. Through this, we confirm that gear differences is not just an optional element, but a core factor. I mean, I feel like they should have known this. Like, people don't play extraction games like this as like an arena-style game where you just, everyone's on the same level and you just kill people and there's no point. Like, there's no looting, there's no getting stronger. There has to be like a power structure. Like, you progressively get stronger, you get better at the game, you get better gear. Like, it can't just be everyone's the same, gear doesn't matter. I thought this was obvious, but I guess they now understand this. The key is not whether it exists or not, but where to set the proper threshold. Okay, fair enough. Party type issue. It is essential to provide an environment where players outside of shared parties can also enjoy the game. We reviewed the possibility of allowing solos and duo players play with a mixed queue, but we found it difficult to achieve it in a short period of time. And even if possible, it seemed less enjoyable than having a dedicated queue. Absolutely. I think we all agree. It doesn't feel good. This is another thing. It was like obvious, like, right? Like, you'd be in a game and you'd get teamed on in solos and you're like, this feels like shit. And why does it feel like shit? Because you're outnumbered. It's unfair. So, like, them making it so solos and duos can go into a trio bracket, it's not fun, because then it's like, the only way to have success in that way is to be a rat and just rat around the map. You're not going to be able to actually go for PvP because it's just too risky, and the chances of you winning that fight are very, very rare. And say you do win the fight, you don't even have the inventory space to take up all the loot and extract with it. So, I don't know. Therefore, we concluded that in order for solos and duo players to avoid being forced into rat play, yup, exactly like I said, and to freely enjoy the game, queue separation is essential. Okay, so this is why they're bringing back solo, duos, and trios next wipe. Like, this is so obvious, but okay, all right. Well, they understand it. Gear gap issue. At first, due to a misanalysis, we perceived gear differences themselves as a problem, but in reality, they were not. Okay. When I say we, I'm talking about a lot of, like, the other streamers and stuff. People were like, yo, gear diffing isn't the issue. The issue is getting the gear. You should be able to re-gear up really easily. So let's increase the loot pool. So say you lose your kit. Well, you'll be able to get back in the lobby, and the lobby is so juiced, you'll be able to get your gear back quick, and you can go back into PvP. But yeah, I don't know. If gear differences were eliminated entirely, players would lose their motivation to pursue better gear. Yes, and since gear functions as a core progression goal into the game, a certain level of differences was necessary. However, if the gear gap becomes too wide, it would require too many brackets or create excessive disparities between rarities, causing some groups of players to lose hope. Therefore, it is important to maintain gear differences at a reasonable level. Yes. In addition, we determined that in the future, a minimal bracket might be necessary to protect new players or to give them a natural sense of progression. Yeah, I agree. We got to go back to the gear brackets. It was the best version of this game. I think we all can agree with that. And I think it's cool, too, because with the gear brackets, it allows new players to come in. So, say a new player is like, oh, this game's cool. Let me tap in there. Then they see the gear brackets, and they're like, okay, PvE mode. Okay, well, let me hop in PvE mode. Let me understand the mobs in the game for a little bit, right? They get 200 hours in PvE mode. They're like, okay, the next gear bracket is 0 to 24. Maybe, and then they're like, okay, maybe I'm ready to take on some PvP. Then they get in there, and they see how the PvP is. And they're like, okay, I'm winning a majority of my 0 to 24 lobbies. Let me go further. Let me go to the 25 to 124 lobbies. Now I'm like in blues and stuff. You know, so they understand that, you know, the more you get geared, the way the PvP is a lot different. You take more damage, you deal more damage, your swings are faster, your movement's different. You're allowed to use more spells because you have more knowledge. You know, it progressively gets better and better the different the brackets are. Then you get into 224s. HR brackets, well, I don't know if they're going to continue to do HR, but say now they're in 224s, now they're going to do HR brackets. They get in there like, holy shit, the PvE is a lot harder. You know, we have even more gear. The players are much better. You know, it gives them a sense of progression. If there's just, you know, normals in high roller, it's not going to, that doesn't help players. Everyone's just going to stay in normals because all the sweats are going to be in high roller. And then eventually the high roller lobbies are going to be dead, so all the sweats are going to leave from high roller and just go to normals. And eventually everybody's just going to be in normals slamming each other and slamming the new players, and then the new players are going to leave. Yeah. Require too many brackets to create necessary to protect players with a natural sense of progression. Yes. Excessive time investment issue. Initially, due to misanalysis, we believed excessive time investments I like how they say due to misanalysis. They're like, it's almost like they're taking accountability a little bit. W accountability. We're gonna give them a heart on this one. We perceived gear differences themselves as a problem, but we already read that. We believed excessive time investment itself was a problem, but that was not the case. The essence was ensuring that players with less time to invest could still narrow the gap and enjoy the game without losing hope by providing appropriate support systems. Okay, so the core combat hope issue, the core of the problem was that when players lost, they did not feel I could have won if I had played better, but instead blamed the system. This issue was also connected to gear differences. When the disparity in power was too great, it became nearly impossible to retain hope, and the chances of overcoming such issues through skill alone was too small. I think a lot of the time, though, the system is kind of the problem. Like when you're fighting druids and they're teleporting all over the place, running through doors and stuff, that system does suck. And say when you're fighting a Sork and they hit you with the Frost Lightning and you're stuck in place for 2 seconds, you're like, this system kind of fucking sucks. Or when you encounter a bear and you hit him 4 times with the Bardiche and he one-taps you, you're like, system kind of sucks. Like, there's levels to, like, balance that need to be fixed still, but I don't know. Direction going forward. Okay, this is, like, the final conclusion. Solo, duos, and trios will be fixed as part of the game system. Yay! We're back. W. Just like normals and high rollers, this will apply to all dungeons, as long as the player population allows it. Okay, this is important. Like I was saying, like we've all been saying, the lobbies have to be filled. Gear differences will be maintained at a level where players can feel progression and values. While extreme gaps may inevitably determine outcomes, the balance will be adjusted so that in normal competitive ranges, players do not lose hope. This is good. This just reminded me, bro. I'm actually excited now that all the gear brackets are back. 2-2-4s were so fucking fun for PvP. I'm kind of excited now. I love 2-2-4 lobbies. Even in defeat. Oh, wait. To ensure that players with limited time do not give up on keeping up, systems such as sockets and improved item management trading will be provided to narrow gaps. I think the socket system was awesome, dude. As long as it's like easy to get gems and the loot's good, being able to just throw socketed stuff on to be able to, compete with some other people is really nice. And it's not too expensive. Yeah, we'll see how this is on the beginning of the SSF. Hopefully they don't tweak the numbers on the rolls that you can socket like they did the first time. I think it's pretty decent now. I think it's good to keep the PDR rolls on the sockets low so rogues don't run around 65% PDR and roll everything. But other than that, I think it's pretty good. I think they should keep it the way it is now. That is one positive that has come with this testing. I think they got the socket thing back. I think it's good now. Yeah. While reducing repetitive and unnecessary time sinks. Yeah. Even in defeat, players should feel I could have won if I had played better. To ensure this, hit decay adjustments, hitbox compensations, and other methods will be used to guarantee at least a minimal chance for skill to overcome disadvantages. Okay. I think ultimately the headshot multiplier I always thought was like I think it was good having 200% headshot. It's just, like I said, it still feels bad with range damage. Just range damage in general, because like sometimes a ranger will just shoot a random arrow and you'll just accidentally walk into it and hit you in the head and then you lose all your HP and they're like, oh, I hit him in the head. We can just push and win for free now. Like that kind of feels bad, but I think ultimately that's just a range damage issue, which I don't think they're ever going to change, but it's whatever. We'll deal with it. Matchmaking pools will be kept as minimal as possible to avoid excessive fragmentation of the player base while still maintaining enough size for the balances defined above to function properly. Okay. We have gone through many trials and errors amidst rapid development and countless experiments. At times it may have seemed as though we had lost direction and we caused instability. Well, seemed. I think they actually did lose their direction, but that's a whole other thing. And confusion for you. However, these processes were necessary to confirm whether each element was truly needed for the game. I think these changes, all this testing was literally for them. Not that we didn't know the outcome of this. We didn't know like all the issues because we're scumbags and we have thousands of hours. But they just needed to convince themselves, like, okay, maybe the player base is right. Well, hopefully they learned their lesson this time and SDF doesn't forget. And they revert the axe spec again and other crazy changes. To determine to what extent it should be maintained, for me personally, it was a process that had to be undertaken in order to provide this game as a service for more than 10 years. I'm truly sorry for the difficulties that has caused you. Well, I will forgive you if next season is good and the player base comes back. If the beginning of the season... Okay, listen, guys. When water map drops, there's going to be a fat amount of players. I'm telling you now. I'm not overhyping it. You know me. I'm a critique Iron Mace for doing dumb shit. But it's going to be a fat amount of player base. Let me tell you why. We have a whole new water map, right? I guarantee you... Well, I'm just going to say it. Am I allowed to say it? Fuck it. Certain streamers are going to have access to the patch notes beforehand, right? So we'll be able to know exactly what it's going to be, what it's going to entail, the water map wipe, whether different perks, spells, and skills are going to be re-added and changed and stuff, which I'm hoping, please God, fix Dark Offering, fix some of these dog shit perks and skills that don't work. Give Warlock more spells, give Wizard more spells, delete Druid, delete Sword. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, but we'll know. But hopefully they change a lot of things and they mix it up so the game feels fresh. We'll have a new wipe, a new map. We have all the new things. But not only that, there's going to be Twitch drops at the very beginning of the water map wipe. So it's going to be not like the bullshit semi-wipe Twitch drops. It's going to be like you remember the wipe before that when it was actually like really cool Twitch drops, when there was like the different emotes. You know, the torch blowing emote, there was the bounty, you know, when you're looking at the bounty page emote, there was that stuff. It's going to be that again. It's going to be fire. So that is going to bring a lot of people in. I don't think we may have had Twitch drops at the beginning of the season, but I don't know if we had Twitch drops at the beginning of the season with a new map. I mean, it's been a long time since we had an actual new map, when I think about it. Like, what was the last new map? It wasn't Ice. It was when they reintroduced Ruins. So I think that was like the last time. But yeah, this is going to be a big wipe. I'm kind of excited for it. Too Cold emote was gas? Absolutely. That emote's my favorite emote. Okay, so I lost my train of thought. Sorry, I'm just rambling. It was a process that had to be undertaken in order to provide this game as a service more than 10 years. I'm truly sorry for the difficulties this has caused you. During the early access period, experiments and adjustments will continue, but unless there are exceptional circumstances, we will do our utmost to uphold the standards we have now established. Based on these standards, we will shape future changes so that you can enjoy a game in a stable environment. Okay, hopefully. We really need a stable gameplay in this game, where you do not lose hope and can continue to challenge yourselves. Thank you sincerely for your interest and support for Dark and Darker. Okay,